Maybe.
Less eyebrows?
Don't do that.
That's how it works. People don't know. Like we do the ceremony and we do the ordination, but really, and the discernment is, we make that up too. What happens is, if a radioactive priest bites you, then you become a priest. Like that's how it happened to me. I won't show you the scar, but he bit me on my arm, and then all of a sudden I just started saying mass, and I just started hearing confessions, and that's actually how it works.
3, 2, 1, go.
So, do I look like Father Mike Schmitz? Like, am I lit like Father Mike Schmitz?
I mean,
like,
well, yeah, yes.
Okay, good. Because like, there's really 2 reasons why I'm doing this video, and they're related. The first is to look as cool as Father Mike Schmitz. The second one is to look cooler than all the other priests on Twitter. So that's why I'm going for this.
I'll do my best.
Oh, hey, fun fact about Father Mike Schmitz.
Okay.
He's only 5'2".
No, he's not.
Yeah, he's a little guy. He's a little guy. That's why they film him the way they do, because he's tiny.
I had no idea.
Yeah. I was really bummed when I found out that Father Mike Schmitz grew a beard, because he's already like holier and like more pastoral than me, but I had a beard at least, you know? And like now he has a beard and it's better than mine. Like the parts connect. Like this is fake. These not even connecting. It's totally fake, but his is like very nice, so.
Okay. Are you ready to record your story though?
I just want to make it very clear that I'm super jealous of Father Mike Schmitz.
Okay.
You
know, we can't put that in. We just.
But it's just important to know. I need to get it off my chest before I record. I'm ready.
Whatever you gotta do, man.
I'm ready for my story now.
All right, cool.
So I grew up sort of Catholic. Like my mom was Methodist and my dad was Italian, so I was basically Catholic. But I didn't grow up going to Mass. In fact, I was baptized when I was about 8 years old, and I can remember my baptism. I remember that they gave me a candle, and what fascinated me, because the candle was on fire, that whenever I tilted the candle, the flame would still face upward. I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool. I wonder what happens if I put the candle all the way upside down. And I got to like this point when my mom hit me, and that's all I can remember from my baptism. She didn't like knock me out, but that's the only thing that I can possibly remember. So growing up, I sort of figured that God was real because, you know, why not? The world overall is pretty neat. I bet somebody made all this stuff, so God's real. I went to CCD. Believe it or not, I was the good kid at CCD. I got all the right answers, mostly because if I got the right answers, then I would get candy, and that was awesome. So that was kind of the extent of my faith until my confirmation retreat. And on that confirmation retreat, I had, with all the rest of the kids, we had a Eucharistic adoration. And so I'm kneeling down, but I'm not praying because I was really ticked off. I can't remember what 8th grade, 9th grade Anthony was angry about, but I know I didn't have a beard back then. I didn't have curly hair back then, so I obviously had less friends. But no, there was stuff going on in my family. There was stuff going on in my life. And if God is so good, why would he let all this bad stuff happen to me? So I wasn't going to talk to him. I was just going to kneel there. But then I realized, oh, God kind of knows my thoughts, even if I'm not thinking them out loud, right? So this is awkward because God knows that I'm angry. He knows I'm ticked off, but we're just not talking. So I figured, you know what? Let's go for it. So I just started yelling at God, not out loud, because that's how you get kicked out of a church, but just in my head, I was like, whoa, why would I do this and why is this going on? And it wasn't a pretty prayer. It wasn't a well-formulated prayer. The grammar of the prayer wasn't great, but it was the first time I ever prayed honestly. And then the second thing that happened was I just kind of knelt there and listened. I think that's the first time I ever just tried to listen to God. So God didn't come down in all of his fiery glory. He didn't answer any of my questions, but in that moment, I just knew that he heard me and that he loved me. And all of a sudden, all of my questions didn't seem to matter anymore. And it was just God. It felt like he reached down and touched me on my heart. And I just started like crying, just like weeping. It was a big mess. And I remember when adoration was over, I ran out of the church because I didn't want anyone to see me. But from that point on, I realized that there's something with the Eucharist, there's something with the Catholic Church, and I want to find it out. Okay, so fast forward to when, near the end of high school, I got pretty involved in my youth group. I would give witness talks, I would help plan our youth nights and everything, and I was really into the whole Jesus thing. I was pretty sure I was going to be a youth minister, because I wouldn't mind being poor, I wouldn't mind working with people, I wouldn't mind giving my life to the church, so that means youth minister, right? And so that's what I was going to do. Well, I was asked to go on this retreat, a leadership retreat, and a couple things happened when I was on this leadership retreat. One, I started to really learn more about the Mass and get really more involved in the Mass. But the second thing that happened was we had these breakout sessions, and you could choose this session or that session. I remember the choices were at the time how to use my space responsibly as a Catholic, and the other one was a vocations workshop. So even back then I was like, my space, that's dumb. So I decided to figure out what's the whole vocation thing. And there was, at the vocation talk, a young priest. He had been ordained a few months, and someone asked him, what's it like to be a priest? And he said, it's a lot like being myself. And I was like, wow, that's a pretty neat answer. Didn't think of that. Well, anyway, as I'm going along this retreat, I was praying with the Our Father, and the part where we say, thy will be done. And I was wondering, do I really mean that? Do I really want to do whatever the Father wants me to do? Do I want to do His will? And because I'm so smart, I came up with this brilliant idea. I would think of the most difficult thing God could ever ask me to do, like the most difficult thing. And if I could do that thing, then I can do all the rest, right? So I was thinking, and guess what I thought of? I'll give you a hint. It's pretty ironic. Yep, priesthood. I was like, oh no, I can't do that. No way. I didn't get it. Like priests, they're nice, fine, whatever. But me, no. I was dating a girl at the time, which was pretty cool. And the whole celibacy thing, did not understand, did not want, no. But here's the problem. This means whenever I pray the Our Father, that I don't actually mean it. It's kind of like I'm lying. And if I lie every time I pray the Our Father, I'm definitely going to hell, right? At least, I don't know, that's how I thought of it. So it's like, ooh, we got to figure this one out, Jesus. So I remember taking a lot of walks and really dealing with the tough questions and asking myself, could I do this? And well, I look pretty good in black, so that wouldn't be a problem. But this other stuff, Lord, I just don't get it. I don't know. But here's the deal, Lord. If you come down in all of your fiery glory, all your angels and saints, and point to me and say, I want you to be a priest, and then you give me a signed document signed by Jesus Christ, so I can show other people I'm not crazy, then yeah, I'll be your priest, no problem. That's not how it happened. But after that retreat, I started going to daily Mass because I could drive and I was blessed to have a car. And I was the only guy under like 50 years old going to daily Mass, so people noticed me. And all these old ladies would be like, oh, you would make such a good priest. And I would punch them in the face. I didn't really punch them in the face, but I wanted to. It would make me so angry for some reason. Like, no, crazy old ladies. I've got this deal with God, signed document, angels, fiery glory, then I'll be a priest. Otherwise, leave me alone. But the thing was, I started to fall in love with the Mass, like really fall in love with the Mass. And I started going to the Sacrament of Reconciliation, like on my own, like pretty often. And I started to fall in love with the Sacrament of Reconciliation, of confession. I started to think, you know what? It would be really cool to be able to do that for other people. And I learned more and more about what celibacy really meant and how that could be like a really beautiful way to give my life in love for other people. I was like, oh, okay, that would be pretty great. So I start my senior year of high school. Now I had stopped dating that other girl I mentioned before, just it wasn't working out, stuff happens. And I was dating this other girl. And this was the first relationship, like I really, really opened up, We talked about God in a really deep way together. I just told her everything. And it was really good. And she was kind of aware that I was kind of thinking about priesthood as well. And so she figured, whatever God wants you to do, I want you to do. And that's like, oh, that's great. That's what I want to do. But I don't think any of us really realized the gravity of that until one very dramatic night. So we were in my car, and we were just parked, and we were talking about how we were going to get married and, have tidal waves of Catholic babies, and everything would be great. But all of a sudden, this thought came into my head. It was very clear. It wasn't like a voice that I heard. It was a thought that was very clear in my head. And the thought was, Anthony, you're going to be celibate for the rest of your life. Celibacy being the state of being unmarried, which, as you can imagine, is a weird thought to have when you're hanging out in the car with your girlfriend. Threw me off a little bit. She noticed, and she was like, Anthony, what's going on? I'm like, no, nothing. She's like, no, tell me. I'm like, no, I don't really want to. Tell me. Okay. And when I told her that, something kind of clicked for the both of us. And there's a lot of talking and crying and talking and crying. And she gets out of my car, goes to her car, and drives off into the night very dramatically. And I got back home into my house, and I'm not in the best of moods right now. And there my dad was waiting for me, and he's this very strict kind of guy, and I was out later than I was supposed to be with my girlfriend, so he started drilling me with questions, where were you, what were you doing? And just to get him to shut up, I said, Dad, I'm going to be a priest. And it worked. He shut up real quick, and there was like this moment of awkward silence. But then he gave me a big hug and said, whatever you want to do, I totally support you, which was great. And so that's when I started finally finding out about the seminary. I had no idea that my diocese had a seminary up to that point. So I started visiting and talking with priests and discerning, and the more and more I thought about it, the more I was like, you know what? I really need to set everything aside and enter seminary. So after high school, that's what I did. And basically, the way seminary went is each year I was like, okay, we'll give the next year a shot. And I grew more and more confident in my vocation. More and more, it seemed like God was saying yes to the vocation, the church was saying yes, and I was saying yes. And I really fell in love with the idea of being a priest. And so 8 years later, here I am. Well, now 10 years, I guess, yeah. I've been a priest for 2 years, and it's been more than I could possibly imagine it ever would be, especially back in high school. I'm just very incredibly grateful that God has called me to this, because being a priest is it's pretty cool.